Good morning. I feel extremely privileged to be able to introduce this session today. We're going to talk about 30 years of Via Campesina and a decade of the UK's articulation of Via Campesina, which is the Landworkers Alliance. Have we got any Landworkers Alliance members in the room? Woo! So maybe we could start off by a rousing chant. We're going to start and end with Viva la Via Campesina, and the answer to that is Viva. So let's give that a go. Viva la Via Campesina! Viva! Viva la Via Campesina! Viva! Amazing. Without further ado, I'm just going to quickly introduce our speakers, and then we're going to have a little video which is going to give you some bit of flavour of Via Campesina. So we're incredibly lucky to have Paula Gioia here, who is a facilitator from the Smallholder Farmers Constituency in the CSIPM, and also on the Facilitation Committee for the International Planning Committee for Food Sovereignty, and is also just a generally fantastic person. Jyoti Fernandez is an international woman of mystery. Also policy, and a good friend of mine, and policy coordinator for the LWA, a really powerful voice for Via Campesina. And we're joined online by Chuki Nanjaswamy, who is a really inspiring person, co-coordinator of the All India Coordination Committee of Farmers' Movements, executive chair of the Karnataka Farmers Union, and she leads the Amrita Bhumi International Centre of Sustainability, which is home of Via Campesina's South Asian Agroecology School. And last but by no means least, we have Morgan Odi, who is the general coordinator of Via Campesina. She's also a vegetable grower from Brittany and a member of the Confédération Peasants. So, those are the speakers. I'm really excited to hear them tell us about some of the context of Via Campesina and the Landworkers Alliance. And we're going to start off with a short video.
We know that everywhere in the world, market-driven economic policies are leading to the increasing feminization of poverty.
We have a choice as humankind, a choice between two paths. One is a path of life, one is a path of destruction.
Nosotros tenemos el resultado de la Revolución Verde, que para nosotros ha sido la revolución de muerte del campo.
Los alimentos son usados como un arma de presión y de control para nuestros países.
Aujourd'hui, la politique de l'Union européenne, c'est le bras armé de l'Organisation mondiale du commerce et c'est le bras armé des multinationales.
la conferencia de la FAO empieza a oír el clamor del campo, de los campesinos, de los pescadores, pescadoras, de los trabajadores rurales, de los pueblos indígenas.
We are standing in here to fight to climate justice now for all people in the world.
Nos sumamos a las voces que diz que es preciso cambiar el sistema y no el clima.
Precisamos ampliar nossa luta camponesa, porque somos duas mulheres com nossa força que reproduzimos a vida, cuidamos da nossa terra, produzimos alimentos saudáveis e precisamos garantir a soberania alimentar de todos os povos.
Let's have the feeling for one another. Together we can win all these challenges. Viva Campesina, viva! Viva Campesina, viva!
Todos camponeses são desejados, nunca passam dia sem estrada na mão. Todos camponeses são desejados, nunca passam dia sem estrada na mão. Viva!
Viva! We're going to pass over to Chiki now, who's coming online from India, to talk about the context of the creation of Via Campesina and an overview of today's structure and how the movement operates, as well as the main political achievements of Via. So, can you hear us, Chiki? Hi, Chiki. Not sure that she can hear us at the minute. Okay. Are we able to contact? Can you hear us, Chiki? Okay. You could just, let her know that. Hi, Chiki, can you hear me? Okay. Just bear with us a second, guys. Hello, hi. Can you
Hello.
Oh, hello, fantastic. Let's give a big round of applause for Chiki. So great to see you again. Thanks for joining us. We were hoping you could talk about the context of the creation of Via Campesina and the structure and some of the political achievements.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be part of the Oxford Real Farming Conference, virtually though. To give you a brief history about Via Campesina, how did we start and what was the context in which Via Campesina was a thought. It started as a thought. It was in the 90s when the agriculture and the food was becoming part of the global economic system and the whole neoliberal agenda. And agriculture was being discussed inside WTO when the GATT was turning into WTO, and they were discussing agriculture as part of the agreement on agriculture. It was, that was the time when the farmers' movements, the peasants' movements around the world started discussing about having our own organization globally. It was the need of the hour because when the food and agriculture was getting globalized and it was becoming was getting controlled by the corporates in the name of neoliberal program. It was the need of the hour to the farmers of the world globally to also come together and defend our own lives and defend our own the means of production. Before Via Campesina, it was we hardly had any organization of our own to raise our own voice. We had many NGOs, definitely across the world, who spoke for the farmers of the world, but they were not the farmers themselves. So that was the main reason why the whole name also is a synonym of what we believe in, is Via Campesina. In Spanish, it means it's our way. It's the way of the peasants. So when the neoliberal forces were thinking of their own way, the peasants of the world said, we have our own way and we will defend that. And, it has been 30 years since we have been organizing ourselves from the grassroots level to the national level, to the international level. And today, we are spread across 81 countries and more than 182 local and national organizations are part of Via Campesina and who believe that food sovereignty is the way and who have been fighting all sorts of imperialist and capitalist forces across the world. The Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations has recognized Via Campesina as one of the largest peasants' movements of the world. So we work from bottom up. We bring proposals from the grassroots to the international level. And we also learn a lot of things, many things from different experiences, from exchanging experiences from other continents too. So it's also a space to learn from from the bottom up and vice versa, and interchange experiences too. So what are the main features of Via Campesina is that we believe in solidarity, and we have been working on building solidarity across the globe. And the other very important achievement, I would say, as Via Campesina is the way the space for the women has been created very consciously. Perhaps this is the only organization or this is the only movement where women are ensured of 50% of participation. And if women are not available, if women are not there, then that space cannot be occupied by men. And this is the way how women take part equally inside Via Campesina in all levels of decision making. And this is something we have learned a lot in Asia, for example. This was a contribution perhaps from South America. And and Via Campesina is also working on something called the peasant, popular peasant feminism. And, you know, in countries like India and other South Asian countries where I come from, where agriculture itself is a very male-dominated sector, we learn a lot from the international popular peasant feminism articulation. So this is how we have been also what we think, you know, we are the organic thinkers, you know, we are the organic intellectuals who do not just say that what we don't want, but we are also articulating what we want. For example, we have been defending peasants' agroecology, and peasants' agroecology is the way of feeding the world. And we have been seeing that. We have been experiencing that. And also food sovereignty. You know, many countries have incorporated food sovereignty as part of the, you know, their constitutions as a fundamental right. So right to food sovereignty for all the people is what Via Campesina has been defending. And we feel and we believe that agroecology is the way to achieve food sovereignty. And not just that, we have also been very active in terms of mobilizing against WTO summits, global summits, wherever WTO went, starting from Seattle to Doha to Cancun to Hong Kong. Via Campesina was there. Via Campesina was there with a big number of participants, big number of mobilization to say that that agriculture has to be out of WTO. And wherever transgenic crops were planted, we were there. Via Campesina was there to uproot transgenic crops. So this is a mass-based organization of people who work on the land and who believe on the Mother Earth. And it's not only of the landholders, but farmers or the peasants for us are all those who work on the land. It may be the landless workers or the indigenous people or the rural women or the youth, the rural youth. They're all part of the food growing, the food producing movement. I guess I was told I just have 10 minutes. Do I have some more minutes?
Yeah, I mean, if maybe you could, have you got any closing, few closing statements around that? A couple more minutes, or you'll also be helping us answer questions at the end too. So yeah, do you want to just close off? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what I would like to say is that we have grown in the last 30 years. And I personally feel very proud to be part of such a historical experience, because we don't just work on a particular agenda or a particular sector, but we are trying to work with the whole society. So we feel the participation of women, youth, and recently in the 8th conference, we had also a forum for the diversities. So it's a very inclusive movement. It's a pluralistic movement where we believe that society as a whole should participate in bringing any kind of change. And the slogan is, as you all know, globalize the struggle and globalize the hope. And Via Campesina is a space where we just don't denounce what we don't want, but we also build hope internationally. And so there are many examples which are spread across the world in terms of agroecology, in terms of agrarian reform, in terms of building food sovereignty, in terms of building solidarity with the urban sectors, the urban working class. So this is a movement, but which is continuously growing. Yeah, thank you again so much for giving the opportunity to share about Via Campesina with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. I know that so many of us in the UK were so inspired by the success of the Indian farmer protests as well. So, and it's just a real privilege to hear from someone who's so central to that national struggle and also in the international context. So thanks so much for joining us, Chiki. If you could stay online, because I'm sure people might have some questions for you at the end. We're going to hear from Jyoti now, who's going to talk specifically about the Landworkers Alliance. We can switch. The schedule says Jyoti now, but we can switch if you prefer. You all right to go now? Yeah. Let's have a big hand for Jyoti. Do you want to come up here? We've got mics too.
Yeah. In the context of, the big international movement and the powerful struggles there, our little group in England feels a little bit small, but we're not small because we're part of all of that, and I love it. And I've been roommates with Chuki many a time, and working at the Food and Agriculture Organization, and it's a big family. And my friend Tilly is there at the moment, right? At your house. Yes. It is a big family that we're a part of, and it's just amazing because these connections are so real. We're all human beings connected in this incredible international movement. But for where we started in the UK, we're very young and we're very small compared to many of the movements in Via Campesina. But being rooted in all of that is where we started, and it's given us a direction of travel that has meant that we've been able to, punch above our weight, I think, because we're really standing with all of this thought, all of this care, all of this knowledge for protesting and sharing, and the pedagogies and the culture of Via Campesina has made Landworkers Alliance what it is here in the UK from a very, very small beginning. I can only speak to the history that in being one of the founders of Landworkers Alliance, I was working from, and that's matched with the histories that the other people who started Landworkers Alliance came from. But I was a smallholder here in the UK, moving to the UK, not being of British heritage at all, trying to get land, finding it very difficult to get land because of the tremendous concentration of land ownership based on the history of the enclosures and the imbalance in how land is distributed here in the UK, where so much land is owned by aristocrats and very large farmers that kind of control the system, and it's very difficult to get involved or to stay afloat if you're a smallholder farmer or a new entrant farmer. My place in helping start this was, rooted in the enclosures and very much based in the green movement. When I came here in the 1990s, it was when the criminal justice bill was protests were kicking off in London. I remember my plane landing here, going into London, and there was just like sound systems and all these people just like completely kicking off. And I thought, whoa, I like this country. This is not the Britain you hear about when you watch Faulty Towers. It was amazing. Fresh, joyful energy to protest and to demand refusal of the enclosures, of people's rights to travel, to have free parties, to rave, all of that. But then it was kind of also rooted in the road protesters that were stopping roads from being built to try and protest against that road building program through direct action, and a lot of joy and creativity there. Again, the anti-GM movement, and I was very much a part of people going out to fields of crops, scything them down. My colleague Simon Fairley, you know, I remember him being out there. He's selling the Land magazine now, you know, in his Grim Reaper suit and his scythe, you know, scything down the crops, and this amazing sign saying, you know, the GM Reaper, you know, and like hitting all the papers, and loads of people being arrested. But holding off, you know, we don't have genetically modified crops being produced here commercially, and you know, and that was a very successful movement. You know, thinking about the land is ours. It was a movement based on land justice and land rights here. People trying to occupy land, to build community projects, to try and support people who are building low-impact housing in the countryside, to, you know, protect the right for people to be able to build their own housing and live a simple life. It should be everybody's basic human right to be able to live without electricity if you want to live without electricity, and grow your own food if you want to. All these things were things that were feeding into the basis of the need for something like the Landworkers Alliance to exist. And that went alongside many other movements that other parts of the founders were, you know, going to. People wanting to start organic farms, the organic farming movement, and the work of the Family Farmers Association. Pippa Woods was a tremendous leader who worked, you know, till she was very, very, very old, always with one demand: cap the payments to large farmers. She had one demand, and she brought it to Parliament every single year. It still hasn't happened yet, but, you know, that was to protect small and family farmers. There's the Small and Family Farmers Alliance, which was also really working to make sure that this get big or get out ideology that the government was promoting, there was some sort of stronghold against that. So, you know, these were all things historically that were leading to that. And I worked for a long time with Chapter 7, which was providing planning advice for smallholder farmers getting evicted from their land for being able to provide their own housing. And I think the basis of where it hatched in my mind to start working on the Landworkers Alliance came from that, realizing there was this huge network of unorganized people that were moving onto the land, facing problems with getting access to knowledge, access to capital, and actually facing eviction for trying to live the lifestyles that they were doing and returning to the land. So it's kind of the neo-peasantry, people returning to the land, plus the smallholder farmers that have historically you know, existed here in the UK, trying to survive in the face of the tremendous neoliberal paradigm that the UK government was pushing onto farming. So yeah, that was it. And we started 10 years ago. And there was a food sovereignty gathering at Hebden Bridge in London. And it was one of those kind of workshops where people hold up a sign and they say, you know, what you want to do. And I remember standing in the middle of the circle saying, anybody that wants to work on starting a small farmers movement that can be a part of Via Campesina, come and see me. Standing in the middle of this circle. And it's really loud. Adam Payne. Yeah, so Adam Payne and... oh, hello? Somebody maybe fix the echo? Yeah, okay. Right. So Adam Payne, my colleague, and Ollie Rodka both joined me, and we had a little meeting outside, and we talked about it, and I said, you know, I think Via Campesina really holds the ideology and the philosophy that we're really needing here in the UK. I was invited to gathering by Patrick Mulvaney here. Because I'd been thinking, you know, I'd been working as a smallholder, like washing loads of nappies and growing loads of veg and things like that, and I wanted an exercise, a different part of my brain, and I wrote to all these NGOs and said, I want to start a small farmers union, you know, is there any support you can give me? And everybody, like, ignored my emails, except for Patrick. And I said, I think you need to go along to Neil Lenny. And I went to Neil Lenny and went, these are my people. It was really beautiful. So, yeah, and it was nice. So we sent out some emails and circulated and said we want to start a small farmers union that can be an alternative voice to the National Farmers Union, which was dominating the conversations politically here in the UK. And we organized a little meeting, the three of us, at the sort of association offices in Bristol. And we had Ed Hamer, who's in the back, and Kate and Ash, who's also in the back here at that first meeting, alongside others. There was Humphrey, Simon Fairley, Ben Raskin, Ed Revel. We were having a little brainstorm trying to remember. And we just said, you know what? We all agree. Let's do this. Let's just do it. Let's just start. We made up a constitution. We put it out there, got people to come to the next meeting, and just said, we exist. We are here. You know, we're ready to go. And I think it was the right timings for it, because we really did need to organize at that point in time. Our very first demo was outside of DEFRA, the agricultural department, and we had this puppet of Owen Patterson out there in bed with some sort of multinational agribusiness company, these two puppets, and we had a big bed, and yeah. And what else did we do at that one? Yeah, we were there. We couldn't get in the doors of DEFRA at that point. They certainly didn't let us through. We set up a nice farmer's market outside. And we were really targeting the idea that their approach was get big or get out of farming. In fact, Owen Patterson had said that and put a threshold on the size acreage for when you could get subsidy, deliberately in this idea that we want to try and consolidate agriculture and integrate it into the global marketplace, and try and get it much more technological and all of the things that we weren't wanting to do, because we were much more about food and farming and forestry as well, being a part of providing for society, not commodifying the production of those things. So we did that. They were kind of like laughing at us quite a lot. But we did, after that, meet Guy Horsington. Ed and I kind of went and met one guy from the agricultural... no, who was Guy Horsington? It was Gove's aide, wasn't he? Yeah, we went to this kind of meeting, kind of polished up our shoes a little bit, and kind of said hi, introduced ourselves. And it was kind of a weird little period, because we met with Ben Goldsmith, this billionaire, who kind of put us in contact with Michael Gove and loads of Tories at the time, which was a really strange kind of situation, because, you know, being a very liberal organization, really rooted in the philosophy of Via Campesina, it seemed a little bit strange, but it gave us an entry point to actually start to meet people within government, and start to talk to them about what we were about. And at the end of the day, food and farming really came down to the fact that, you know, and small farms and the entrepreneurial spirit of people going back to the land, and the community that it was rooted in really went past political boundaries. And we really knew that that was the way to try and move things forward. And so then we had a demonstration called A Place at the Table, which was really fun, outside of DEFRA, and set up a big feast outside the agriculture departments. And now I work with DEFRA all the time. I go in there, I work with people within the departments, I have meetings with them, and they tell me stories of how they were looking out the window at all the yummy food and these piles of meringues, and all of us down there, like, you know, just showing the joy in the community that's around food, and us going, and they all really wanted to come out, but there was this memo sent around the office telling them they weren't allowed to at the time. And when they finally met us, they realized that this is what they were looking for, somebody that was actually matching food production with the protection of biodiversity and looking after the climate, and not kind of the two opposing things. And actually we became a voice that became quite legitimate in their eyes. And I think that was really beautiful. And it also stemmed from the fact that alongside all the political work we were doing, the peer-to-peer work, you know, the organizing, the demonstrations in the regional areas, and the community that we were building with tremendous amounts of dancing and loads of joy, was so passionate about it that they were going out and contacting their MPs. They were going out and talking to local officials. They were, you know, we were making a real presence out there that was identifying something that people were finding that we really needed here in the UK. And I think that, you know, put us in a position that now I do feel like we're in a position of legitimacy. We have our youth branch and all that young energy from FLAME, Food, Land and Agriculture, a movement for equality for our young people from ages 16 to 25. And they've just exploded. I don't even pay attention to what they do. There's just like all this stuff all over the internet that's tremendously funny and wonderful. And they've got thousands of followers. And, you know, it's all of a sudden becoming something that I feel is becoming integrated into the culture. The ideas of food justice, the ideas of moving back to the land, and integrating ourselves with this amazing global community. And I want to hear more about this, because every time I hear more about the roots of Via Campesina, what Via Campesina is doing, it is the most amazing feeling to feel a part of something so much larger than ourselves, and we all uplift each other. And it started with 3 of us. That's nice.
Viva! Thanks, Jyoti. that was amazing to hear about, especially some of the, the context for what was before Landworkers Alliance as well. And yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're gonna speak. We're gonna hear from Paula now, who's going to talk about the spaces of articulation and emancipation within the movement. Paula's very inspiring to me because they, well, for a lot of reasons, but they started or really were behind the first space for sexual and gender diversities in La Via Campesina. So just before Paula speaks, I'd also like to just say hi to Anders, who was going to be coming and is snowed in Denmark. So Paula has stepped in to talk on his behalf as well. So can we just get a shout out, round of applause for Anders? Hey, Anders. And yeah, handing over to Paula.
Yes, oops, sorry. Yeah. Thank you, and yeah, as Ed just said, I'm here like replacing Anders. It's a pity he could not make it. The climate didn't allow it. We were actually looking forward to have a young, fresh voice here, also because the movement is about also training new leadership, to also speak in space like this, and so for us it would have been important to have a young voice here. Unfortunately, the weather didn't allow it. So I would like, to zoom in something that Chuki already spoke here and there, about, the role of women, also the role of youth, and the recently achieved space also for the diversities. Why is it important? Because, La Via Campesina is a movement for change, and I think besides of being anti-capitalist, I think there is also another dimension in the system that we have that also lead the world to a lot of oppressions, which is patriarchy, and so a reflection by the movement right in the beginning was that, in order to achieve the systemic change, we have not only to fight against capitalism, we have also to fight against patriarchy. And how do we do that? And I think it starts with self-reflection, that we also reproduce the values that have been taught to us by society, that we are also reproducing, we are also reproducing patriarchy in our daily lives, and also this movement, So in order to stand against it, we have to do this first step of self-reflection, and for that we need space for that, How did it start? The movement, as Chuki presented, was officialized in 1993. And 3 years later, we had our second conference. It took place in Mexico. Here there were delegations from the different countries, and as we know, even today, from different farmer spaces, what happened was that even in La Via Campesina, the men were the ones, taking a lot of space. They were the ones speaking. Also, in terms of the delegations, there were more men than women in the space, and so on. But the women there, they realized that, and they got together informally, to organize and to make something against it. And what they did was that. They did a strike, and they walked out of the room, and said, as long as we don't have a say here, we are not going to come back, So there was a women's strike in the second conference, international conference of La Via Campesina. And this was a very important, let's say, internal mobilization, in order to achieve the change, to make it visible the discrimination, the marginalization that was happening within a movement that pretends to be radical, no, and pretends to achieve social change, no. So yeah, from that movement, a process started in La Via Campesina in order to give women the necessary space. So there was a process from that conference to the next one in order to do a kind of consultation among the women participating in the movement to see what are their needs, no? And from that needs to formulate also proposals, no? So 4 years later, in the next conference, which took place in Bangalore in 2000, a women articulation was created, no? What is articulation? Articulation are spaces, we could call it working group, but it's not like only working groups over on a thematic, no, issue. It is really something meant to be transversal, no? It's a space for emancipation. It's a space for strengthening a particular group within the movement, and in this case, the women, no? Acknowledging the role that women play in agriculture, in farming, also in society, no? And that this also must be visible, or must be visibilized in the movement, no? So the articulation was created, and also with that, the women brought demands, no? And one of the demands that from that moment on was anchored in La Via Campesina, and this, I would say, was very, pioneer among social movements at that time, was the creation of the code systems, no, that in every delegation of La Via Campesina, or in every coordination space of La Via Campesina, there must be 50% representation of women, no? And this is something that we have until today. Another demand was, to have regular women assemblies before any La Via Campesina conference. This is important, so the women arrive well prepared to the conference themselves, no? Bringing their own analysis, their own proposals and demands, no? So the assemblies were introduced. And also another proposal or demand from the women was the establishment of a campaign, no? A campaign against a campaign on violence against women, no, and since the stop violence against women, no. This campaign is a continuous campaign in La Via Campesina, no. Of course, there are also mobilizations on the 8th of March. There are mobilizations on the 25th of November, no, the International Day Against Violence Against Women. But there is also a permanent campaign to stop violence against women, especially in rural areas. And as Chucky already mentioned, and this was not something that came already in the 2000s, but it was a process also of developing our thoughts, was coining the concept of popular peasant feminism. And why is it important? Because feminism comes as a concept, no, comes very much from the global north, and comes very much also from academic spaces, no. And for us, it was very important that we shape this concept according to our realities, no, as peasant movements, no. So that we shape it in adequate to our realities, and also that it's responding to our needs, no? So those are some, let's say, demands, proposals, achievements of the women in La Via Campesina. And then this was also an inspiration to the youth, no? Because when we talk about emancipation, there are several groups, no, that are marginalized in society. Oh, 2 minutes, that will be tough. There are several groups which are marginalized in society, and as I said, also within our realities, no? So the youth kind of, got a lot of inspiration of this legacy, that the women prepared, the past prepared by the women. So in the next conference, 2004 in Brazil, we had not only a women assembly, but also a youth assembly, And with the time, it was not immediately, there was also the introduction of a new code system, which is 50-50 women, 50-50 men, but also 1/3 of youth participation. Again, the articulation of the youth is again a space for formation, for emancipation of youth, understanding if we don't have strong youth, we already lost. We need to be constantly preparing new farmers, new entrants, but also new cadres for the movement itself. So this is very, very important. And and a more recent and recently in the 8th conference, what the youth achieved, and it was not so easy because in the conference before 2017, the youth tried to get also equal, following the code of the 1/3 participation, also adequate participation in decision-making spaces of the movement, meaning the International Coordination Committee. But at that time, 2017, this didn't pass. The organizations, the regions didn't agree with that. So we had a minimal representation of youth in the International Coordination Committee. 6 years later now, in Colombia, we managed. So this shows for me, things might need time, but we are working on that, And finally, sorry for the 2 minutes, because, and finally, the more recent, develop in the movement, which is not so recent, because it started already back in 2015, was the introduction of, questioning this concept of, questioning the binarity of the gender system. La Via Campesina back in the 90s, 2000s was pioneer, to open space for the women and create the spaces, But are we still like? Is it responding, to the questions, to the realities today? If we look to society, are there not other people in the movement, that who don't really feel embedded in these two gender systems? Is this cis heteronormative gender sexual system not reproducing actually patriarchy, reproducing capitalism? Is it not about time to think beyond and to understand that people like me and maybe others here in the room are also part of the movement and also want to have, a say, not only hidden, but really, outed, bringing not only some political message, but also bringing our bodies, bringing our thoughts, bringing our love to the movement, and not hide it, showing that we are also producing food, we are also part of agriculture, peasant agriculture, we are also part of this beautiful movement that Chucky and Jyoti just presented. Why we have to be hidden? So we started to discuss about that, and it took time. I have to say that I felt quite a lot, how to say that, being smashed from time to time, being one of the persons, I'm not the only one, but one of the persons, who were vocal about this in several spaces and so on, and getting to hear all the, let's say, the shit that people tell to you, it is hard, it hurts, and it hurts in oneself, And I hear this until today, but at the same time, the movement realized that we cannot remain silent, because people like me and maybe others here in the room or in the Zoom, we exist and we have ever existed. no? And we are not in the movement we are not starting to be in the movement now where this space has been created. We have already been there for, forever. And it's important to acknowledge this existence, and it's important to acknowledge that people like us also have a say, and that what we bring to the movement also enriches the movement, no? We are defending diversity in terms of seeds. We are defending biodiversity. We are defending the cultural diversity, language diversities that we have in the movement. Why are we not defending the human, sexual, and gender diversities that we have? No? It is difficult to talk about this in some national context. It is, no, because colonialism has, changed the mindset of many original cultures, being it in Africa and Asia or in Latin America, where I come from, in Brazil. But, we are challenging the system in so many fronts. Being anti-capitalist, it's not an easy thing in a lot of contexts. Why can we be anti-capitalist, but we cannot be in favor of gender and sexual diversity? No, we have to challenge ourselves. And the movement, now realized that and accepted this challenge, and we just created this new space, the articulation for gender and sexual diversities. We know that not all regions are already there, but as I said, things go slow. Might go slow, but we go united, and we know that our aim is to change society. So let's start from ourselves, not asking for permission to be who we are, just being who we are. That's it, what I wanted to say. So, food sovereignty with diversity.
Thank you, Paola. I think because we're running a little bit behind, maybe we will skip the video, which was going to be after you. So just for the tech, we won't have the video, so to allow time for questions. But I'd just like to welcome Morgane, who is the coordinator of Via Campesina.
Hello and good morning to you all, and thanks a lot for the invitation. It's always great to come to the Oxford Rural Farming Conference. Well, I think that 30 years ago, very, very few people could have imagined where we are now. Very few people could have thought that a global peasant movement would be one of the most powerful global social movements in this world, which is the case right now. We gather more than 200 million small-scale food producers all over the world. We are in almost 100 countries. Even now in Oceania, we have a new member organization in Australia. And over the last 30 years, we have won huge battles. It's still forbidden to crop GM crops in Europe, thanks to our struggles. In Colombia, Via Campesina is one of the main guarantee of the peace agreement. We built a peace agreement in Colombia, in a country that has been in a war because of agrarian injustice for decades. We have been the first to claim for food sovereignty, and now everybody is talking about food sovereignty. We have been pioneers in peasant feminism, and now this claim of peasant feminism is growing everywhere. That feminism is not only and probably not mainly an urban claim, but it's a popular claim linked into the fact that we produce food, we take care of the others, we take care of Mother Earth as women. We have been able to negotiate in the United Nations the UN Declaration on the Rights of the Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Area. We struggled for that during more than 18 years, negotiating with governments, negotiating with the UN, but finally in 2018, it was adopted by the UN General Assembly in New York at the vast majority of the countries. Almost all the countries in the southern regions voted in favor. And in last October, there was a new vote about the fact to create a working group for the implementation of the UNDROP, and all the southern countries voted in favor. Only the UK and the US voted against. So we are really already changing the world. And the conference that we had only a few weeks ago in Bogota, it was a sign of this very huge, vivid movement, really embodying internationalism. People from all over the world, from a huge diversity, pluralism. And still, thanks to this pluralism, thanks to this diversity, we are united. We know where we are going to, very clearly. I think, to be honest, more clearly than ever. The motto that, of our conference in Bogota is, faced with global crisis, we build food sovereignty to ensure a future for humanity. And I think this is the level of our ambition. We are not there only to defend the interest of small-scale farmers or to ensure the future for peasants. We are here to ensure a future for humanity. And I think that's also very new in the recent history, that now we can say that peasants are the future. We are the future. We and all the people who are taking care of Mother Earth, producing healthy food, producing the plants to cure the people in a healthy way. This is the future, in particularly in front of the very difficult situation in which we are right now, in front of wars, in front of pandemics, in front of the rise of far right-wing movements, in front of hunger. Hunger is growing. It's even growing here in the UK, which is one of the wealthiest countries of the world. More and more people are hungry here. And it's true also all over the world. And in front of this, the alternatives that we bring, the proposals that we bring as La Via Campesina, give us hope. Not only to us, it gives hope to humanity. And we are right now at a very tipping moment. It can seem, the situation can seem very doom. It is very doom. I have this scarf from Palestine, because what is going on right now in Gaza and in West Bank, it's barbary. It's a genocide. It's not acceptable. And all governments, the government of the UK, the French government, they are supporting this genocide. This is not acceptable. And as La Via Campesina, we stand against this barbary. We stand for human values. We stand for human dignities of whoever, of women, of non-binary people, of people, whatever the color of skin, whatever religion. We are equal, and we are equal in dignity. And that is what we defend as La Via Campesina. And for this, in front of climate change, against wars, against racism, against this fascist movement rising everywhere, we have very concrete responses in front of many problems. It's the right to land and water for everybody. We need public policies to share land, to share water, so that all those, and in particular the young people who do want to produce food, to feed their communities, to feed other peoples, to take care of the land, that it's possible for all of us to achieve this dream. We want food sovereignty, market regulation, fair prices, because those of us who are giving our life to produce healthy food for the other, we deserve a fair revenue. It's not fair that all over the world, the peasants, the small fisher folk, we are the poorest. We are the most oppressed people. It's not fair. We need policies to ensure that we have a decent living. We want agroecologies and also public policies to support agroecology, to ensure that it's easier to produce without toxic products than with it. Right now, toxic products are subsidized by our governments. This is not acceptable. We should be supported to promote agroecology, to support a new vision of our relation with the land, with our territory, which would not be a relation of domination, manipulation like the GMOs, but a relation of taking care, of loving Mother Earth. We are promoting peasant and popular feminism. And with peasant and popular feminism, it's a whole thinking of relation between each other, based on equality, based on decent life for everybody. So we are now also very deeply engaged against racism, because we see that all this discrimination, all this pretension that there are some people who are better or superior of others, it's unacceptable. So we need to fight against this, to fight for equality and decency for everybody. And we fight for peasants' rights. Peasants' rights are human rights, but embodied in this relation with the land, relation with the territories, in the necessity to produce food for taking care of all our communities. So all these proposals, it's very concrete. It's not like, it's very pragmatic. It's not crazy things. If we are strong, if we struggle together, we should be able to impose to our governments that they start supporting the forces of death and start supporting the forces of life. And it's together. It's peasants, it's consumers, it's environmental organizations, it's movements struggling for peace in the world. It's all together that we can build this. And that's the reason why the vision to have this new Food Sovereignty Forum, Nyeleni Forum, in 2025 is so important, because we are very sure of our responsibility as the global peasant movement to work together with other movements all over the world. And we share this vision of a decent life for everybody, of solidarity, of internationalism, of feminism. We do share this vision, and we want to build together. And we are the majority. I know I live in France. I know in the UK it's difficult because most of the time we feel very much in a minority. But we need to be extremely generous. We need to go and meet the urban people who have difficulty to afford healthy food. We need to go to see the workers of the food industry who feel harassed, who feel tired, who feel unrespected. And we need to talk to them, to tell them that they have a decent life, that they have rights, and that we will work with them, struggle with them to defend their rights. Because if we don't do this in our countries, these people who feel oppressed, who feel not respected, they will go and see the far right. And so it's our responsibility to ensure that all countries don't fall into the dirty hands of the far right. With our generosity, with opening up our movements, also from all countries struggling against imperialism. We should not accept that all countries go and make wars against other people in the world. We should not accept that all countries send weapons to Israel against the Palestinians. And in so many situations, all countries, all governments do this, and the people remain silent. We should not remain silent. We should voice up for solidarity for all our values. And all this require formation, political training, to know about our values, to know about where we come from. And in the UK, the history of peasant struggle is a strong history. There has been so many strong struggles against enclosure, for the right to stay on the land, against capitalism. There has been so many peasants' movements linking up with workers of the industry for our rights. But we have forgotten about this. Because also most of the writers, most of the intellectuals, they come from the elite and they won't tell this story. So we need, as peasants, to recover this story, to say we have always been here, struggling for the rights, for humanity, for decent life for everybody, against racism. Let's take up this story, reclaim this history, and say that this is what is important in our society, and we will continue to maintain this struggle and to make them bigger, and in the end, we will be successful, because there is no other way. The other way is climate disaster. The other way is fascism. So there is no other way. We need to stand up and fight for this and find joy in this. Because in doing this, we discover that we are good humans, that our neighbors are good neighbors, and this makes us so much more joyful, while in our daily life, it can be so difficult and so depressing to live in our countries. And I think through this struggle, we can be joyful again and proud of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Morgan. Those feel very powerful words. I think it would be great to take some questions now, and we're also going to take some online. Hannah, are you seeing questions coming online too? Have you got a microphone?
Yes, I do.
So I think what we'll do, if I give these, you guys share these mics to respond. And if you want to direct your question to a specific person, if you could also say your name if you're happy to do that. And obviously we can also ask questions directly to Chucky too. So let's take a question from the room first. Can we get a mic?
And also, because we're on the live stream, can you wait for the mic and speak directly into the mic? Thank you.
Right.
Hello, my name's Lara. I just want to say thank you so much. That was really inspiring. I teach gardening to children, and I run a children's gardening club from an allotment that is designed especially for children. And I was looking through the program here, trying to find workshops and talks to do with children and young people, and the only one I could find was the Flame workshop yesterday, so I gate crashed it. And I was very old compared to them, but what an incredible group of young people. And it got me thinking, so I teach children from the age of 4 up to 13, and it's this whole group of people, young people, children, that we're not acknowledging. And I'm seeing 4-year-olds who I teach, completely competent gardeners. And Paula, you made a really valuable point. If we don't have strong youth participation, then we have already lost. And I think you kind of inspired me. I kind of want to start the Children's Gardening Alliance for parents and teachers. And our government have let down children in this country. It's potluck if we teach gardening to children in schools. So it's down to a teacher or a parent or. And I feel like something's coming on. Anyway, it's not really a question, is it? It's just something I wanted to point out.
Do you want to reflect back?
I just want to do a comment because I would say, like, at least how I see our organizations in Europe, that's indeed that children are, left aside, but I think in Latin America there is quite a lot of, awareness for that. And in the AIDS conference where we just came back from, there was the Conferencita, which was a space for the children, to also be, while their parents were, participating in the conference, that they were also doing things, but they were not just like, it was not just a child care. It was really also political, no? So according to the topics that were being discussed in the conference, they were doing things during the day. And I think it was the last day, no? They had also even one of the mysticas. So mysticas are powerful moments we have, you know, using not talks, but like more visuals, music, you know, kind of connecting with our souls. And, you know, and the children of the conference, no, they prepared also a mystica, and they even participate in the closing ceremony, you know. So for me, this is already political training starting, you know, from the beginning. And if you allow me, Chucky, maybe you can talk about your experience, because you were born into the movement, no? How was it like, you know, you are now a raised child from La Via Campesina, so I don't know, maybe it's also interesting to hear from Chucky.
Oh, you want me to go back to my childhood? Well, I feel that I'm a very privileged child to be born inside the movement and to grow up, you know, hearing, you know, I remember, you know, hearing words like capitalism and imperialism at the age of 4, and we didn't even understand what it meant. But we were already aware of those words. And as we grew up, we started understanding. And I still remember that we used to have mass conventions, mass rallies on the 2nd of October, which is the birthday of Gandhi. And millions of farmers would come from all over the state, they would bring their different types of food. It used to be like a feast. And in the center of the city, in the capital, we would all gather and go around. It was a huge family, as Jyoti said. And you know, all the kids of the activists, the farmers activists would gather. We would also meet once a year. And one of the things that we would go around and play was, we are not afraid of the prisons and the guns. So that's what we were, that was our sort of rhyme to say that. So it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, when you see kids who are growing up in a capitalist world, in the urban areas, totally disconnected from nature and the society, you feel very sad. You know, what kind of children, what kind of future we are, you know, building. So it's very important to keep the children. And in Colombia, you know, as Paula said, it was such a moving thing to see the children on the stage with the slogans, and perhaps they don't really understand what they say, but they, you know, they will, you know, that's once a seed is sown, it has to germinate, and one day it will germinate.
Thank you. Oh, you have a question? Oh, we're going to take one from online and then we'll... Hannah?
Yes, so this is a question for Paula or for anyone building youth movements. Do the young people feel pressured by older generations to maintain the status quo or to intensify their agricultural systems more? Or is there intergenerational solidarity?
Okay. Here in my role of replacing Anders, who's not here, but also from my experience, no, because, may I stand, because I don't know if people can see me in the back. I was actually one of the, I mean, in my organization, ABL in Germany, there is a very strong, you know, youth group, no, and therefore, you know, I started actually in Via Campesina, I mean, in the European coordination Via Campesina and Via Campesina International through the youth articulation, no, because that was where I was coming from. So I was one of the persons who was the first international coordination committee member for Europe in representation of the youth. No? So I'm speaking also from my experience, no? And also what I hear the youth today in ECVC, in the European Coordination Via Campesina, no? Indeed, there are pressure, no? There is pressure. Because, you know, youth sometimes, you know, don't feel like, they don't feel like being seriously taken into account, you know. Sometimes they might be bringing ideas or thoughts or, you know, proposals that are either seen as too radical or unrealistic, and so. But that's the precious gift that the youth has to give to us. No, their lack of fear, no, their capacity to think beyond the borders that the society are giving to us. No, their capacity to imagine a different future. No, and also to bring proposals that might not be in line with, you know, their the shaped ideas of adults. No, and they are also capable, let's say, to dialogue with nowadays, no, with different medias, no, to think communication in a different way, to think relations in a different way. And I think, therefore, it's important, you know, to on one hand, to give the space for youth, no, to procrastinate, and I hope this is an English word, like to think beyond, you know, but also like to have a space for training, and also to give them opportunities, serious opportunities, not tokenism, no, to give them serious opportunities also to speak, no, to represent, no. So what we wanted with Anders today here, you know, and in this conference, was that he can also, you know, be in a space like this. This is not a space only for, you know, leaders that have been already on the way. No, this is a great space for interaction. No, but unfortunately the weather didn't help us. But yeah, there are, I'd say, challenges also within the movement, because, you know, we know this from our families. No, the elders don't want to go. No, they want to be like the, you know, to have their, how to say, their hierarchy, no? And this happens in the movement as well. But as I said, it's a constant exercise of reviewing, you know, their own patterns and improving. And I think, you know, the space of the youth and also the role the youth has been playing in some of our organizations in the CVC and in La Via Campesina shows that, you know, it is important, and we need this sparkling ideas. We need this, these shining eyes. We need this. We need them, no, in order to build the future.
Brilliant, thanks, Paula. So we've got a question there.
Hi, my name's Maimuna, and I'm a land worker and mushroom forager. I wanted to ask a question which is kind of, I guess, multi-pronged, but it's mostly in response to Morgan and your really beautiful words, and they were really rousing, so thank you. I guess I just wanted to ask, because I assume that La Via Campesina has a long history of solidarity with Palestine, and I wanted to kind of ask a question in order for you to explain that a little bit more, but also, I guess, for folks who are like maybe earlier in their journey, to just unpack a little bit why Palestine is such a land justice issue. I guess as someone that's this is my first time at this conference, and I've just been really, really disappointed, to be honest, with how little Palestine has been brought up at a so-called land justice conference. And yeah, so I just wanted to kind of draw that out and give space for that, I guess, particularly given that we've been speaking a lot about the movement needing to be very sentient and cognizant of what the needs are in the world. So it seems like a huge gaping hole in the programming of this conference, I suppose. But I guess a second question to that would be, how would you go about, as someone in this sector, as a land worker, addressing that silence? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First, we have a member organization in Palestine, UAC, which is an amazing organization. And currently, well, they need support because they are one of the very few organizations able to organize food distribution in Gaza. But it's extremely complicated, it's extremely expensive. So really, to support them in this moment, it's very important. One of the reasons why the support for Palestine, and in particular Palestine small-scale farmers, is so important is that Palestine embodies what colonization is. It embodies what land grabbing is, what agrarian injustice is. It's about some people taking the land and the water of others for no other reason than religion, color of skin, and all those things. And what we defend, it's equality. It's the capacity for everybody to live together in peace without stealing the land of each other. And what we see is that when Israeli settlers steal the land of Palestinian farmers, most of the time it is to do industrial farming. It's also to change very deeply the relation to the land into a capitalist relation to the land. And what is very problematic is that in all countries, all governments and most of the mainstream media try to build a narrative that it's about a war of religion. It's about, they say it's about a war of civilization, and it's not. It's about, once again, defending equality of life of everybody, whatever religion, whatever color of skin, against disequality, against apartheid. And it's very much related with a very long global history. It's very much related to how, I think one of the reasons why the US government is supporting so much Israel is that they have the same history of colonization, of extermination of indigenous people. And I think that saying this from Europe, we have to deeply think of where we come from. Because I think also, well, we went to school here in our countries, we've been brainwashed by our media to think that we are superior, that we know better than others. It's very deep in our mind. And we need, as Europeans, to decolonize our minds. We are equal. Neither are we better nor worse than the others. We are just humans. We are equal with the others. And how can we, as Europeans, as the one who have been, well, all governments, all elite have been the imperialist one, how can we change our countries to stop being that, to stop sharing this very dirty and deathful culture of domination and extermination and colonization, and to build a culture of, I don't know if this is the right word, but humanism, human dignity based on human rights, and equality, internationalism, solidarity, cooperation. So this is a very deep task. When the international, well, I am now the general coordinator of Via Campesina, and it's a rotative role. It was just before in Africa, before it was in Indonesia, before it was in Honduras, and before we started to come with this responsibility, we had a lot of questions of whether it was legitimate or not for us to have this responsibility. But one of the things that we thought is that having this responsibility, it's a responsibility. It's not giving us more power. It's giving us more responsibility to do this work of decolonizing ourselves and to ensure that we struggle seriously against all transnational companies and all governments who are continuing this politics of colonization. So I think that's the task that we have, in particular in Europe in these years. Yeah, thank you.
Hello? Yeah, I just wanted to say that from the roots of where we started, you know, I was just painting a picture that it was very small. It was very much based on, you know, what we were facing, trying to come up with a little solution to it, you know, for the land workers here in the UK. But being a part of the Via Campesina gives us a clear way to be in solidarity with all of these struggles. And we're in a very powerful position being here in the UK because so many of the roots of the issues that are being faced around the world are rooted here in our financial policies, in our development policies, in the contributions we make to, you know, various international funds. You know, even with the Indian farmer protests, when we did some investigation, we realized that it was the UK Development Department that had actually sponsored the Indian government to look at how to to liberalize the agricultural policies in India. And so we were really at the roots of what the farmers were protesting against. So we have power here to try and force our governments to look, you know, to deal with the Palestine issue, to deal with the roots of liberalizing, with the free trade agreements, with all of the financial sector, with the money that we're putting to loss and damages and all the things in the climate change talks. All of these are things that we have power over and we have responsibility for now. And, you know, we started with something really small, focusing on what we can do here, but actually I feel like we as a movement need to really step into our responsibility being in the belly of the beast and at the heart of the colonial empire.
Thanks, Jyoti. So yeah, some really important reflections there. And I mean, I know personally that on my farm we use the Netafim irrigation equipment, which was those drip tape, T-tape, that was designed by and is manufactured by Israeli companies to irrigate places where water is scarce, which is the West Bank. So there's always ways that we can. I just thought I'd add that as well. So we are pretty much out of time, but I think it's been a really informative and fascinating for me as well as a Landworkers Alliance member to hear from all four of you. The Landworkers Alliance changed my life. I don't think I'd be a grower still without LWA. And then going as a delegate with Joe to the 8th conference was also transformative. It's still sinking into me the impact and inspiration of that. I think that perhaps if I was thinking of asking Chucky to make a closing statement, and then I'm sure that if you have more questions that you might be able to talk to our panellists afterwards. So do you have some closing remarks, Chucky?
Well, it has been a very enriching and very powerful evening for me, hearing my sisters from France, Morgan, Paola, and Jyoti, and to be there virtually, but still, you know, to feel the atmosphere has been really powerful, and the ideas from the audience, like the gardening teacher, or how, you know, the Palestinian question has not been raised enough in this space. You know, these are the real questions that we have to, you know, think about. And this kind of conferences, you know, you know, they always give us a space and opportunity to reflect also internally on what each one of us can do, can contribute to for a real social change. And I really like the name of Oxford Real Farming, because most of us, we end up saying we are talking about alternatives. In fact, we are not the alternatives. The alternatives are them who are destroying us, and we are the real ones. And let us defend that reality. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I have, on someone else's behalf, I've just got a quick announcement. We were talking a couple of times about GMOs. So gene editing is still something that we are at risk from in this country, especially after Brexit and globally. There's actually a consultation on gene editing happening nationally, and that closes on Monday. Now, the Soil Association and GM Freeze and others are meeting today for an info share on that consultation on gene editing, and that's happening in the Aldgate Tavern at 1. So I just wanted, it's not in the programme, so it'd be really good to go along to that as well. So, and can we just get a round of applause for our panellists? Viva la Via Campesina! Viva! Viva la Via Campesina! Viva! Globalise the struggle! Globalise hope! Globalise the struggle!